Lisa Goodman, we salute you. You were a malevolent force in this city for many years. Goodbye. Farewell.
We're rolling. We're rolling.
This is a real thing. Real thing.
None of you have the balls to stop this. Stop this.
I've got plenty of time. I have nothing else going on today.
We're in the Wedge neighborhood right now.
All right, this is the Wedge Live podcast. I'm your host, John Edwards, and I'm joined today by Josh Martin. I used to call myself the new Larry Jacobs. You remember when I used to call myself that?
Yeah.
Kind of a self-deprecating thing because, a political science professor pulling things out of his ass on TV has no more wisdom to offer the world than we do. And so I don't know if I'm allowed to be self-deprecating on your behalf, but I am going to dub you the new Larry. You're the new
new Larry Jacobs. All right.
Jacobs. Yeah. So do you accept that title?
Sure. Why not?
Okay. What are you drinking here today, Josh Martin? I'm sure our audience
It's just water, just lime LaCroix.
LaCroix. Okay. So if I fail to edit out the lip smacking from this episode, you will know that Josh Martin, every time you hear the lip smacking, it will be Josh Martin taking a swig of LaCroix. What flavor again?
Lime.
Okay. Josh, I've given you very little detail about what this episode is about. You know it's about candidates, right? 2023 election. I also thought we would introduce people to the idea of city politics. What can City Hall do? What is the relevance to people's lives? I think a lot of people have some misconceptions about, what different levels of government do. Maybe they call their congressperson about an unshoveled or an unplowed street. Maybe they think their city council member has control over the defense budget or something. I don't know. People have crazy ideas about who they should be contacting. How do you describe to people why City Hall and city government and city council elections, that's who's on the ballot in 23. What's the relevance?
So, I mean, city government, I think in some ways, one of the most important. It's the closest to people's daily lives. You mentioned the streets getting plowed, but all of the different aspects of municipal government, whether it's that or managing the police department, probably. Well, that has more to do with the mayor, but it's part of the city government. It's a lot of people's minds, public works, all those other city departments, and as well as local ordinances that have effect in Minneapolis. A lot of those relate to housing, for instance. So there are a lot of things that have a very direct impact on people's lives that are under the purview of the city council.
Yeah. The way I look at it is I have no impact as an individual on what happens in Washington, D.C. Very little impact. Doesn't matter how many volunteer hours I give to like a presidential campaign. Yeah, am I really going to affect that? Especially with things like the Electoral College and gerrymandering everywhere. The city council and city government can affect things like transportation, like is the bus taking too long? I want a bus lane here. Or this street is terribly dangerous. Maybe we have too many lanes and they're too wide, and we could create a safer crossing here, like on Lindale Avenue. Things that you as an individual can, get involved and make a real difference. That's why I have always been more excited about local government. I'm very enthusiastic about local government. I don't know if you can tell, Josh. And I hope people will share. I hope we can make this accessible to regular folks, and people can share this episode to all their uninitiated friends who are maybe civic minded but have not yet discovered the importance of local government. So things like streets, public safety, all those things Josh mentioned, they're relevant. So as a political analyst here, you know how those political reports are like leans Democrat, leans Republican. Do we have like a Josh Martin approved terminology for the various city council wards and what is likely to happen? What is the terminology? Because everyone's a Democrat, right?
Oh boy.
Leans Fry, that would be a very like
Leans Fry.
Incendiary. That would piss some people off if we said the award Leans Fry. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. I know when for instance, when I wrote my Southwest Voices piece, I don't think I even used the terms like moderate or conservative or progressive. I just noted like there's this group of council members that tends to vote together, and there's this group of council members that tends to vote together, and
you didn't describe
let people
like
draw their own conclusions about what that means. I did describe what those votes were, so you can look at what some of those votes were and draw your own conclusions.
What are the issues?
From that.
What are the issues that are on the close votes? Because a lot of times they're all voting together. A lot of like non-controversial, everyone agrees kind of things. What are people disagreeing on the council?
Public safety certainly is one of the most common topics that is area of disagreement that showed up in things like the Police Federation contract or the recent CCPO ordinance. Transportation, normally not an area of disagreement, but sometimes is, and showed up in the Hennepin Avenue redesign. How many hours a bus lane would be a bus lane. The government structure got pretty controversial, and certainly some things around housing get controversial. That came up in debates over how to set up the rent stabilization work group, as well as debates over how the city responds to homeless encampments.
What are the big issues? I'm struggling to determine, and this is a question I'm going to try to ask candidates. Like, what is the theme of 2023? Are we just going to rehash public safety? Is that going to be all we talk about? Are we going to find a new theme? The 2017 theme was it's the year after Trump's election, and everyone is demoralized, and like cities are the last bastion of progressive hope. And we elected our most progressive council majority ever. In 2021, we were just dealing with the aftermath of MPD killing George Floyd and the police department exploding. Everyone is afraid, and to a large extent, I feel like a lot of people are still afraid. What do you think, Josh? Are we going to rehash crime, or are we going to find a new theme?
We could rehash crime. We might find a new theme. I certainly think that rent stabilization is going to be a big topic next year as council tries to figure out what, if anything, to put on the ballot for 2023. So that will probably be a big issue. Potentially other issues around housing.
Yeah, I'm curious how the rent stabilization. So we've set up a mechanism to enact an ordinance, right? This will not be a charter amendment. This is a mechanism to enact an ordinance.
Correct. So the charter amendment that was adopted in 2021 grants the council the ability to place a future rent stabilization ordinance on the ballot for voters to approve. And that somewhat convoluted process is required due to provisions in state law.
So there's a theory that having that on the ballot can drive turnout in what otherwise might be a sleepy, no one paying attention kind of election. Or it doesn't drive turnout and it just ends up being a sleepy, nobody pays attention, and we elect Lisa Goodman's best friend as her successor kind of election.
Yeah, I don't know what the effect of the charter amendment will be. I certainly think that absent any unusual effects, I would expect this to be a very low turnout election. 21 was pretty unusual. We had record turnout for a city election with over 50%, which in the grand scheme of elections still isn't that good, but for a municipal election is very high. Normally, I think it's been in the range of 30s percentages in recent years, and even that is higher compared to what it had been historically. And I would guess we'll probably be even lower than that this year, since this is the first time we've had only city council on the ballot. There's no mayor at the top of the ticket to drive turnout.
Well, let us change that, Josh. And again, a message to listeners, share this episode with all your friends. 2 electric personalities like John Edwards and Josh Martin. It will pull in your friends and get them to care about city politics. The first 10 minutes here, I think you can all tell how great a job we're doing at selling this as a very important thing, and you can make a difference. Please share this episode. Let's get people excited. Let's make sure this isn't a sleepy election that no one pays attention to, and Lisa Goodman's best friend or other crony gets elected to take her seat. Before we get to the ward by ward stuff, let's talk about something that I feel like I should be happier about, Josh Martin. It's 26 years in the making, 7 terms on the city council. We're finally rid of Lisa Goodman, everyone's favorite boogeyman on the city council. She's done. She's announced her retirement. And I've promised many times to be more positive about things, but I can't shake the idea that like things can get worse. And I feel like I'm wrong here. This is an emotional reaction on my part. I feel like Lisa Goodman really is the boogeyman. She really is the big bad bully behind the scenes, killing good things, making sure they never come up for a vote. This is the thing I've heard constantly, is that it's not always what Lisa Goodman does with her votes. It's the experience, the killing things in the cradle so they never have a chance to flower, never have a chance to have a vote taken. I feel like a lot of that was at work with the Hennepin Avenue stuff, the endless delays. You can look at like 3rd Avenue downtown. Lots of transportation examples I can think of, but I'm sure there are many other examples with Lisa Goodman. So I think it's similar to like losing Cam Gordon in Ward 2. So much experience, knows all the tricks, and the conservatives will lose someone who knows all the tricks and people are very afraid of. And let's do your reaction, Josh, and then I will play. We could have the world premiere of Elton John. Elton John has done a new Candle in the Wind. You might remember he did one for Marilyn Monroe, and he also did one for Princess Diana. He has done another one for Lisa Goodman, and we will premiere it here after Josh Martin gives his reaction.
I would agree with that analysis, and I think the Cam Gordon analogy is very apt. It's easy to look at the council or any legislative body as just a collection of votes, but you can't forget that they're actually individual people with skills and experience and talents. So it's not just losing a more conservative or more moderate vote. It's losing Lisa Goodman. And she brought a particular skill set to the council that even if she is replaced with someone with views which are largely similar to hers, will not have the skills and experience that she brought to the city council.
Are you ready for our special Lisa Goodman tribute?
I'm ready.
Okay.
Councilmember Goodman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't think it's helpful for anyone on the committee to criticize others, and quite frankly, I think it's kind of hurtful. But to be honest, I'm not really interested in fighting old fights, and I know you're not either. I'm happy to provide the minority opinion on the panel today and stand up for what I honestly believe in, which is what I've done for many, many years on the council. I just feel like this is like jacking around and kicking the can forward over and over again. And nowhere in those points did we say put a fourplex on every block. The exact quote was, because of the lack of action to protect renters in this city, that is just simply not true and is actually kind of insulting to our staff.
And I do respond to all my emails every day, and what I'm hearing is people are afraid.
Blame the mayor, because he's in charge.
I wouldn't even consider paying $6 for an ice cream cone.
Help me understand how to do this correctly, but I'm hoping that we can move this forward without recommendation. I'm happy to speak to that a little bit more if you'd like now.
You can do that, but I don't think you have the votes for that.
Yeah.
And I'm not willing to bring it to the council and have another 7-hour council meeting. And I feel like everyone's time is being taken up, including all of the people in the audience. You guys suck. You didn't do a good job. I've got plenty of time. I have nothing else going on today. I was personally involved in an assassination attempt over the summer.
Oh, yeah.
Lisa Goodman, we salute you. Goodbye. You were a malevolent force in this city for many years. Goodbye. Farewell. Okay, I don't know if that was funny, Josh. Was that funny? It was really just all a lead up to her saying that she was involved in an assassination attempt. I don't know if making people listen to 2 minutes of sound clips to get to that one part was good.
I mean,
ice cream cone.
Yeah. A lot of them were good, but yes, the assassination attempt was a highlight. It was an interesting way of describing a very real and serious thing that she was present for, but it was just an odd way of describing it.
Maybe the finest example of someone taking themselves out of context, because there was no additional explanation there, though. It's just how she put it. I don't know, maybe we have nothing more to add on this point, but the power balance between the mayor and the city council, like, there's a potential people see this as a shitty job. That why would I waste my time running for this office? The mayor has all the power. Sure, I can set the budget, but like a lot of power that the council had to like lead departments and push them one way or another is just gone. I think if we had a veto-proof majority, or maybe even a simple majority, a lot could be done to like hold the mayor accountable as this new government structure takes shape. Because I think I've said past couple of years, like, it's all in the norms you set when you first implement it. Yep. We don't know really what the boundaries are. We're setting them now, and I feel like this has been a terrible council majority in that regard, because they're just letting the mayor do what he wants. And I would like some pushback.
Yeah, I think there is. Certainly being a council member today is different than being a council member prior to the adoption of the Strong Mayor Amendment. But I think there's still a lot of important work for the council to do. They potentially can focus more on the legislative role of the position now that they're not as focused on the operations of specific departments. And as you said, we maybe shouldn't judge too much based on how this current council has operated, because the majority of the current council is fairly closely aligned with the mayor, and therefore doesn't want to fight the mayor on a lot of things. Right. So we maybe shouldn't judge how the current council is operating to as a benchmark for what the council can do. A different council may choose to push the envelope further, and then we can really find out where exactly the boundaries are in this new system.
And they don't have legislative staff. Am I correct on that? We're still, like, they've gone through they've had this 2-year term, abbreviated 2-year term, and like new government structure, which means department staff don't answer to them, which makes legislating near impossible. And there's a plan to give them legislative staff in the future. That has not actually happened yet, right?
Yeah, that's correct. They have their council aides, and there was a plan to hire legislative staff who would report up to the city auditor, and they did fund that in the budget, and I think they did even increase some staffing. I don't know if that was FTEs or it might have been some dollars for like contractors, but regardless, they increased the funding for it. However, the budget got adopted not that long ago, and it takes time to hire people. Right. So yeah, those staff are not in place as of today, to the best of my knowledge.
Yeah, we voted for the Strong Mayor thing, which broke the city council, and then we devoted the first year of this term to like giving the mayor what he needs to do his work, and basically deciding city council is not going to have the capacity to legislate, and who knows when they will. Okay, we're going ward by ward, Josh. Ward 1, Elliot Payne is the incumbent. Anyone running against him?
not to the best of my knowledge. So far, he appears to be uncontested. I would guess that he is in a fairly good position.
Yeah, I would think so. Ward 1 was a little bit of an outlier in 21 in that it seemed like most of the city was trending away from the progressives, and yet Ward 1 we saw it flip from Kevin Reich, which was kind of a Mayor Fry ally type, would have aligned with him during this council, but he lost, and Elliot Payne came in. I'm a big fan of Elliot Payne. I think he is extremely thoughtful and is a bright spot who gives me hope for a better city council, which I said before he was elected, and he has lived up to my assessment. So I think Ward 1 is okay. He could have an opponent, who knows, but he doesn't. So far, I feel like this is great analysis, Josh, that we're giving here. Ward 1, kind of a boring one. Ward 2 is a little more interesting because my impression of Ward 2 is it's a very progressive ward, and yet when it came down to it in that three-way race last time around, all the Cam Gordon votes kind of like went equally to the Fry candidate and to Robin Wansley, who is the DSA candidate, and it ended up being a very close 50-50 thing there at the end, right?
Yeah, there's a lot going on there. I think one thing is I don't know. It was clear to you and me, but I don't know that it was clear to everyone that Eustra was the Fry candidate. I think the way she ran her campaign and positioned herself made it seem that although she may not have been, made her seem more like a progressive, I think, is one way of putting it. I think Ward 2 is also interesting in that you mentioned earlier they're all Democrats in the council. That's technically not true. Robin Wansley ran as an independent candidate, but affiliated with the DSA. She doesn't affiliate with the DFL.
Right. Thank you for that correction. And it's also true that I think Chugtai in Ward 10 and Chavez in Ward 9 are dual endorsed, right? They both got DSA and DFL endorsed.
They were dual endorsed in 21, yes. Yep.
Yeah. Something I wonder about is, could Robin Wansley win the DFL endorsement if she sought it? And I don't know.
I don't know, and I don't think we'll find out. I'm not aware that she has any intention of seeking the DFL endorsement. So,
look how popular your Google Docs are, Josh. We have Josh Martin is in this doc. We have anonymous blobfish also in the Google Docs. We have anonymous giraffe is also browsing your candidate sheet. That's something you don't get for other news sources that are non-Google Docs. Is you don't get to see the anonymous animal figures of other people. It gives you a real sense of a community.
Yep.
That there are other people who also care about candidates. Have we finished with there's no opponent yet in Ward 2, but I would very much expect there to be an opponent.
I would agree with that. I think people certainly saw how close the race was last time. And Ward 2 did change in some ways in redistricting. I think people will. I think, plus certainly given that Councilmember Wansley tends to be a particular target of the other side in city politics.
Real firebrand, really pokes at the mayor, really stands up to the mayor.
I expect she will get a challenger. Yep.
Yeah, and it's as I said to start it off, Ward 2, very progressive, should not flip to a like downtown council aligned, Mayor Fry aligned seat, but it very well could if you put someone in who doesn't give off the image
right.
of that type. So be very discerning, Ward 2, about the candidates who might arise. Ward 3, we have incumbent Michael Rainville, who I think is just of anyone in the city who makes you embarrassed to live here. Michael Rainville is that person for me. Like the moments when you feel good about Minneapolis and then you're reminded of Michael Rainville and you become very embarrassed about your city. Had that that issue where he basically insulted the Muslim community after like a 4th of July incident downtown, saying that it was all the Somalis. I don't have the quote here, and I probably can't do it justice, but he had to apologize for that.
Yeah, certainly a lot of Michael Rainville's words and actions, I think give some people in Ward 3 some pause and will make them motivated to volunteer for another candidate. And we do so far have one other candidate. There may be more forthcoming.
Michael Rainville also, in 21, projected this image of being pro housing and has not at all been that. He's been the candidate of Northeast Minneapolis NIMBYs, as far as I can tell, and unable to articulate reasons, legal reasons, which is a thing with land use approvals. You have to have a legally defensible reason to oppose things, and good council members who are of the mindset to be a little more NIMBY-ish will actually come up with legally defensible reasons. It's not hard. You can put some words together and say it's illegal. He just couldn't. And so I like to say he's a belligerent doofus, and I wish he would go away. Wish he would retire like Lisa Goodman, but he's 2 years into his job. Who's running against, I've heard, this just in, Wedge Live cameraman Conrad Zbikowski is the candidate in Ward 3. I feel like I can't be impartial here. I love Conrad, but I also urged him not to run. I did that because I care very much about him, and I told him, please don't run. And he's running anyway. What a hero this man is to run in Ward 3. But like me, he's a sensitive soul, and I don't know if we'll see if he has the toughness to pull this one out. Josh, what is your assessment of Conrad Zbikowski?
Conrad has certainly been running a very aggressive campaign so far, which is probably needed.
Aggressive. Why do you say aggressive? What's he done?
Not in a bad way. I just mean that's maybe not the right way to put it.
Oh, no.
I
was not trying to characterize that in a bad way. I just mean what has he done? He's been
very active. He's been doing a lot of events. He's been doing a lot of campaigning, doing a lot of door knocking, and started that very early on. I think he was the first candidate out of anyone to announce. He announced 2 days after the 2022 election was over. And has pretty much been hitting the doors with his volunteers since then.
I once sat in a Chipotle parking lot filming a puddle with Conrad Zbikowski in the rain for about 20 minutes. If you go to YouTube and you search Chipotle, I don't even know what the title of the video is. It's like a slow TV thing. That's my fondest memory of Conrad, filming a puddle in a Chipotle parking lot. So you can expect great videos out of the Conrad campaign to match that 4K video of a Chipotle parking lot puddle. Lake Chipotle, as it's known across the city and the country. Ward 4. I don't feel good about this one, Josh. I don't know if anyone's going to run against Latricia Vitaw in Ward 4. And I'm not a particular fan of hers, but she might just have that seat.
I think that's very possible, that she will not have any serious opposition.
But please do, if you live in Ward 4, if you know anyone who lives in Ward 4 who would be good, find a candidate. The more the merrier. Ward 5, we have Jeremiah Ellison and Victor Martinez. Victor Martinez
Rematch.
Is back for another round. Did Victor Martinez end up being all that competitive in 21? I forget.
Yeah, it came
for the
down...
DFL endorsement. He was competitive, but when it came down to ranked choice voting in the election,
in the first choice votes, it was very close between Ellison, Crystal Porter, and Martinez, and Porter just barely managed to beat out Victor Martinez for second place. So Victor came in a close third. And then I think if I recall correctly, a lot of Victor's voters did not rank a second or third choice. And so a lot of those ballots got exhausted.
Yeah, because Victor Martinez is a Trumper. Like he's a pastor of a homophobic church, voted in the Republican primary in 21. Like, there's no place running for office. Like a Mickey Moore level, just not fit for office kind of candidate. Please, Ward 5, find a different alternative to Jeremiah Ellison if you're dead set on that. Although I like Jeremiah Ellison. One thing I got the impression in 21, Jeremiah Ellison was kind of like, I think he basically admitted he did not work hard enough early enough in that election and open the door for someone to come in, but he did pull it out eventually. And I hope Jeremiah Ellison can do better this year, do better earlier, and make sure we're not at risk of a Victor Martinez administration.
I hope he's learned his lesson from that. Yeah, Ward 5, I would say out of the seats currently held by Progressive, Ward 5 is probably the one that scares me the most, the one where the Progressives really have to play the most defense based on how close the election was in 21.
Ward 6 is a real puzzle. 4 candidates. And I should also say, like, we're at the time of year where candidates arrive by the week. And so the candidates we're talking about now, there may be more candidates.
Yeah, maybe there will be more candidates by the time people are listening to this.
Right.
Yes.
Like next week or in February or March could be more candidates. Although the DFL and caucuses are when?
The DFL precinct caucuses are March 14th. So it would be advisable for any candidate seeking the DFL endorsement to declare before then.
Do we think the DFL endorsement is necessary? How important is it, do we think?
I mean, I don't think it's necessary, and we know it's not necessary because we've certainly seen people win in the past without the DFL endorsement, or even win when their opponent was DFL endorsed. But I think it helps, and I think there's advantages you get from seeking the DFL endorsement, even if you don't actually get it. You can try to block your opponent from getting it. You can get in contact with a lot of people who are active in politics and get them interested in volunteering or donating to your campaign. So there's reasons to seek it.
I think it's a good organizing exercise, aside from any results that come out of it. I think you get some attention, you get your people, give people a task to do in the spring. You give people a reason to pay attention to local politics. As much as I kind of intellectually agree with the idea that caucuses are dumb and should be done away with, I actually think maybe it's better we have this process than not, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I don't have strong feelings on the caucus versus primary debate. I know a lot of other people do.
Really? You don't? You don't?
I think there are advantages and disadvantages to both. I think that's a whole other podcast with some other guests.
Do you not agree with me that it's better we have it than not, or you're completely agnostic?
Better we have it compared to what?
Like nothing going on. We just wait for the fall and everything shakes out then.
Yes, if it's the question of have the caucuses or just wait until the general election November, then yes, no question, I agree it's better to have the caucuses.
How are we 36 minutes into this, Josh? I feel like it was 8 minutes. We were 8 minutes into it.
We get distracted.
So Ward 6, a lot of candidates. Incumbent Jamal Osman, Abdi Razak, Bihi. How do I say Casey's name? Case. Can you help me, Josh? Do we know?
Kesa? I'm honestly not sure myself.
Kesa Muggan?
I think the last name is Muggan. That I remember better.
I feel very bad butchering someone's name. We should have come more prepared.
We should have.
And Tiger Worku? Is that how I say the last name there?
I'm not sure I've ever heard his name said aloud, so I'm not sure.
So Osman is the incumbent, kind of, sort of fry-aligned.
I mean, Yeah, Osmond. So the conventional wisdom, which I think holds somewhat true, is that there's kind of 5 progressives or whatever you want to call them on the council. There's 5 moderates or conservatives or whatever you want to call them on the council, and there's 3 kind of moderates, but they lean a little closer to the Fry-aligned wing than to the progressive wing of the council. And Osmond is in that group of 3, along with Jenkins and Johnson.
Though it should be said, Osmond voted for the Hennepin bus lanes before Fry just vetoed the hell out of it. So
Yep. Certainly he has broken.
Fry. Yep. There's also the Feeding Our Future stuff, which is he founded a nonprofit that was ultimately later involved, but had kind of washed himself of it before that became a thing. Am I describing this accurately?
That's pretty much right. Yeah, I think his ties. I think there's not enough evidence right now to directly accuse him of any wrongdoing, but certainly he has some unsettling ties to the Feeding Our Future scandal. And what exactly that means, we'll see more of in reporting. But yes, that issue in particular, I think, is why this has so many candidates right now, and may even have more. His association with that scandal has made people view him as damaged, and therefore candidates are treating this almost like it's an open race.
Well, his wife ran a separate nonprofit that has also been tied to the Feeding Our Future thing. It's like, well, maybe I could buy that you had washed yourself of your own nonprofit before it got involved, but if your wife's nonprofit was also actively involved,
It certainly doesn't look good.
Where there's a raging fire, there is fire, I think is the saying.
Where there's fire, there's fire. Yeah.
No, where there's a raging, the normal saying is where there's smoke, there's fire. I'm saying where there's a raging fire, there is fire. But yeah, I don't know. The most serious candidate there appears to be Muggin, right? Challenger.
I think so. I think Tiger Worku might be establishing somewhat of a campaign as well. Behe, I know, ran last year, but I'm not honestly sure how much of a campaign, or not 2 years ago.
Surprisingly strong.
I think a lot of I think Behe for a lot of people was the anti-Osmond option. I'm not sure how many of those votes were actually for Behe.
That's true.
Some of them were, certainly. There's no doubt about that. I think he does have a constituency and a core group of supporters, but I'm not sure all of those votes were specifically for Behe. I think some of them were just against Osmond.
So Ward 7, Lisa Goodman is retired, which is something we covered, and I won't play the song again, but I've heard like a really strong circumstantial rumor that Kim Havey, who is the city's sustainability director, would run, very close Goodman friend, and actually was displeased with the redistricting outcome because he had been redistricted out of 7, like expressed those opinions, and almost immediately moved into Lisa Goodman's neighborhood so that he could be back in Ward 7, which I feel like is... why would you do that? Why would you be so upset about redistricting and immediately move if it wasn't the plan to run? And if anyone was going to tell him, like, this is your year, it would be his good friend, Lisa Goodman. But I've also heard that he's not running. So I don't know. I feel the circumstantial evidence is extremely strong that he is, but also he might not be. This has been your Wedge Live approved rumor mill.
Yeah, we don't have a lot to say about Ward 7 right now. We just learned yesterday morning that Lisa Goodman is not running for re-election, so we have not had... We currently have 0 candidates in Ward 7. I expect that will change in the near future, but it hasn't changed as of now that I'm aware of.
You know, an interesting name that someone mentioned to me was David Fay. I don't know if you're familiar with David Fay.
Oh,
He's
right,
from
right.
Faith in Minnesota, right?
Yep. He works with Faith in Minnesota now. He was a deputy mayor under R.T. Ryback. So that would be, he's in 7. So that would be an interesting potential candidate.
Like a very progressive guy. Like, I don't know, like he projects a very like buttoned down, smart, and with it kind of Ward 7 type personality.
Sure.
Like, really sharp guy, but is also extremely progressive. So I don't know what his reaction to that suggestion would be, but David Fay, if you're listening, Ward 7 needs a candidate. And I would enjoy speaking to you on the podcast about your run for city council. Okay, Ward 8, we have Andrea Jenkins, who is the council president, and I know Ward 8 is, I always get this wrong, and I say Ward 8 is the most progressive in the city because I'm a particular fan of Ward 8. They are capable of sending a more progressive city council member than Andrea Jenkins. I think a lot of people agree with that. I think there was an effort to like recruit a better candidate, but nothing came of that in Ward 8. I don't think. At least we haven't heard anything. And so Andrea Jenkins has indicated in a fundraising email, not in so many words, but it seems like she's running for re-election.
I would agree with that. Yeah, she's the one incumbent on my tracker who I say technically has not yet announced her plans, but I think she's going to run for re-election based on the signals we've seen. We have, I know, I live in Ward 8 myself. I know some people who have been involved in trying to get a candidate. And to the best of my knowledge, those efforts have not yet been successful. I think certainly a lot of people were waiting to see what Andrea would do. And now we know. We'll see whether that continues to scare people away or whether somebody decides to run now.
What saddens me is to have Ward 8 send a city council member who is aligned with the mayor. That doesn't sit well with me. Although, again, we can say that Andrea Jenkins voted for the Hennepin Avenue bus lanes. She did break with the mayor on that one. What does your vote tracker say about Andrea Jenkins? How aligned, like who is she aligned with and to what degree?
So this includes 2022 votes. Let's see. Jenkins is most aligned with Osmond. Voted with Osmond 92% of the time. Johnson 89%. Koski Palmisano 86%. Bataw 83, Rainville 78, Goodman 77, and then keeps going down from there.
How aligned was she with Elliot Payne?
Elliot Payne 53%.
Okay, Elliot Payne is my moral compass. That's...
So the math I ran kind of matches the vibes and conventional wisdom in that the moderate council members, certainly they are most closely aligned to each other, which is what you would expect. They are more closely aligned to the Fry aligned wing of the council than the other wing of the council.
We have Jason Chavez in Ward 9. Do we expect a Mickey Moore style candidate to or any candidate to come back and give it a shot?
I do not think there will be a serious opponent to Jason Chavez.
Is that your way of saying possible. You think Mickey is coming back?
Yeah, I mean, one can debate whether to even consider Mickey Moore a serious candidate based on the results of that race.
Can we talk about Mickey Moore for a second? He's the guy who lived in Anoka County, like he was homesteading the property in Anoka County, was maybe living with in his mom's house in Ward 8, but definitely didn't live in Ward 9. Basically had told a landlord, I want to rent a sham apartment. I won't live here. I'll be your best tenant because I won't actually live here. Very, very scammy campaign. And this George Santos news in the U.S. Congress has come out, and it's like, where did he get his money? Why is this person who never made more than like $50,000 in a year? How do they come up with like $1 million to loan their campaign? And it's got me thinking back to like, how did Mickey Moore loan his campaign $40,000, which was the amount? Like, that's a lot of money to loan your campaign when you're not running. And then I think like would anyone with $40,000 to blow give it to Mickey Moore to waste? So maybe Mickey Moore just has that much money laying around to waste. But I am forever perplexed by where that $40,000 came from. Because it was a terrible campaign. Maybe people just throw money on bad campaigns if they have that money. And I don't know if Mickey Moore has that money. Maybe he does.
Yeah, I don't know. I think someone will run in Ward 9 based on the number of candidates that ran in 2021. It seems there's a group of people in Ward 9 who has very different views than Jason Chavez. But based on the results of the election, it doesn't seem like they represent a very large portion of the population in Ward 9. So I think someone will run a fairly fruitless campaign. But I don't think Chavez is in any real danger. He won with a pretty substantial percentage of the vote, even in an open seat. He should be in an even stronger position now as an incumbent.
Ward 10, Aisha Chugtai, one of the dual endorsed DFL, DSA council members. I live in Ward 10, and I don't see a serious challenge coming. I was a little bit concerned and I'm a little embarrassed that I was a little bit worried about some of the conservative candidates in 21, but those fears didn't turn out to be anywhere near to true. Because you had Chugtai in first, and then Katie Jones, who was also a candidate I supported, fairly progressive, was basically like second on that first round of votes. And so there's a lot of progressive votes in Ward 10. And if you're coming at that seat from like a let's defend MPD kind of position, you're not going anywhere.
I guess, and I should have mentioned this earlier with some of the other races we described as safe. As we did talk about earlier, we are expecting probably a lower turnout election in 23, which hopefully we can try to prevent. But a lower turnout election is necessarily a more unpredictable election because it really depends on who turns out then.
Trying to get me worried again?
I'm not trying to get you worried. I'm just saying that that's something to think about and may lower the certainty of some of our predictions. I still agree with your overall analysis that Ward 9, Ward 10 are probably still in a pretty safe position.
I think if the Ward 10 is the kind of seat where if it goes bad in Ward 10, the entire city is lost, I think.
Sure.
That's the way to think of Ward 10. If that one falls, so many others have fallen, and like Ward 10 is irrelevant anyway.
Yep.
Okay, Ward 11, we have Emily Koski, who is a Fry-aligned city council member.
Yep.
I think this is one where we might not see a serious challenge. I don't know if any good progressive really has it in them to beat their head against the wall here. And sorry to be negative. If you're in Ward 11, definitely do this. Definitely do beat your head against the wall. We want to see you. But what do you think, Josh?
I think that's right. I think in some ways this is similar to another ward, which we'll get to later, where there's really going to be, I think, an uphill battle to try to unseat Koski. And so people might look at this right now and see maybe this isn't the best year. Maybe wait till there's an open seat, or at least wait until you can run for a 4-year term. It's a lot to put yourself through for a city council election, and maybe if it's like, well, this is only for a 2-year term, not a 4-year term, is it worth it to subject myself to that?
Yeah. Okay, Ward 12, we have an open seat. This is going to be one of the more competitive ones, or maybe it won't be, I don't know, but it's an open seat and lots of people are vying for it. Aureen Chowdhury, Jerome Evans, Nancy Ford. Yep. I will not characterize her as a serious candidate. Luther Ranheim, who I know very little about. And I'm hoping to have some Ward 12 candidates on the podcast coming up soon. I've sent invitations to all but Nancy Ford, because while that may be a fun time, I don't think it would be a productive time to have Nancy Ford.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at my list, I would say as of right now today, Ward 12 is probably the most interesting contest in the city. It's very possible that'll change as things develop in Ward 6, or as people start to announce in Ward 7, now that that's also an open seat. But yeah, I think Ward 12 is a very interesting seat. Andrew Johnson, I guess, as we talked about earlier, we might classify as a moderate on the city council.
He's basically a swing council member.
Yeah.
If you're trying to pass something that's even the least bit divisive, the first name that comes into your head is Andrew Johnson. And then you're thinking, like, how do I get Andrea Jenkins? Then you're thinking, how do I get Jamal Osman, who's like fairly unpredictable and hard to say.
I think that's exactly right. Yep.
The Ward 6, the Ward 8, and the Ward 12 seats have been the swing votes on the council. And it's sad to have to say that about Ward 8, though. Not that I want to open that can of worms again.
Yeah. Ward 12, I think there's been a lot of progressive energy in Ward 12 recently. So I think there's definitely a possibility that Ward 12 could elect more progressive candidate, or it's possible they'll elect another candidate in the mold of Andrew Johnson. I think it's unlikely Ward 12 will elect anyone significantly to the right of Andrew Johnson, but I could be wrong. Hopefully I don't have to eat my words on that later.
Yeah, so what is it that's convincing us Ward 12 is turned? Because I used to think of Ward 12 as like Ward 13 light, like definitely more progressive than 13, but lots of single family homes, fairly high incomes, but it's actually significantly more progressive than 13. Do we have like election results to point to like illustrate that? Yeah, like I'm thinking
I can try to pull some things up.
Sorry to get you out there Googling, but I'm thinking of Mary Moriarty.
Right. That was one of the first things I was going to look at.
Ilhan results. I'm not going to edit this out, Josh. We're going to leave this in.
The awkward pauses. All right, great.
Keyboard clicks.
Oh, the keyboard clicks. Excellent.
This is Josh Martin at work.
At work, yep.
Did I embarrass you about the LaCroix? Because I don't feel like you have not.
Oh no, I don't care.
Drinks. You haven't been taking drinks. I don't know if people are getting the lip smacks that they were expecting that I teased.
I'll drink some more LaCroix.
Okay.
Ward 12 was up there, so Moriarty votes by ward in order is 9, 8, 10, 1, and then 12. 1 and 12 were tied, both with 69% of the vote for Moriarty.
And then what was the vote in Ward 13?
In 13 was second to last out of Minneapolis wards, 56% of the vote for Moriarty. So Moriarty still won in Ward 13, just by not by as wide a margin. So that's I think a significant difference, 13% difference.
Let's go through the ranking again based on Moriarty vote from strongest progressive, using Mary Moriarty as the litmus test for progressiveness. Let's rank the wards most.
I don't know if that's really the best method to go off just this one data point, but we'll go with it.
Let's do it, Josh. It's conclusive.
Ward 9 first with 75% Moriarty. Ward 8 with 72%. Ward 10 70%. Then wards 1 and 12 both at 69%. Wards 2 and 6 at 68%. Wards 4 and 11 at 62%. Wards 3 and 5, or Ward 3 at 61%. Ward 5 at 60%. Ward 13 at 56%. Ward 7 at 55%.
So by that standard, Ward 4 is a little bit more progressive than Ward 5.
I mean, I don't know if 2% is a particularly significant difference, but yes.
Okay. Josh, I take your caveat seriously. It's not perfect, but it's
something. It's a data point.
Okay, have we finished Ward 12? There's going to be a lot of action in Ward 12. Let's wrap up Ward 12. So definitely get involved, pay attention, and hold these candidates' feet to the fire.
Maybe there will be even more candidates in Ward 12.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that. It's an open seat. Ward 13, we finish up with an easy one. I don't think anyone's going to run against Linnea Palmisano, and she is running for re-election, right?
She is running for re-election. Yeah, she has not publicly announced yet, but a anonymous source forwarded me an email she sent to supporters saying that she is running for re-election.
Why would you need to get this anonymously? Why not just say? What is motivating people like Jenkins and Palmisano to send private emails, like campaign emails, and not just come out publicly?
I think there's a lot that goes into a campaign, and the timing of the announcement and when you want to make that announcement for the greatest impact. And for the incumbent, there's potentially some advantage to delaying, so potential challengers are left guessing as to what you're going to do. So I don't think it's weird that some people are keeping it private. What I find more odd is people where it's ostensibly public, but they just don't do a very good job of publicizing it.
Who's that? Who's doing that?
Well, Nancy Ford comes to mind, whereas
Nancy Ford is a total goofball. Did I cut you off, Josh?
No, that's accurate description of Nancy Ford. Ward 13 again. And I've noticed this in Ward 11 too, and there I think there's also some people in Ward 13. There are some people who are quite motivated. But
I shouldn't
write
off the idea. I shouldn't write off the idea that a Ward 13 candidate could emerge. Who could have expected the lovely Mike Norton to have emerged in 2021? Nice surprise. Although Mike Norton got his butt kicked. So
yeah, but I think
fun.
Again
we enjoyed meeting Mike Norton, but Ward 13 didn't have enough Mike Norton fans in it.
I think the best hope in Ward 13 for progressives is when it's an open seat, and even then, I don't know if they'll win, but it's a better hope then.
Also, our worst nightmare, because you could end up with someone worse than Linnea Palmisano. So I think my theory with Palmisano is better than my theory with Goodman. Like, it could get worse. I think I'm wrong in 7. It probably can't get worse. But in 13, I think it could, because I don't know how effective Palmisano is as an insider. She's often seemed to be a comical figure to me, and clownish.
She'll I don't know. We'll see soon how effective she is. She'll probably continue to be vice president on the council, since I'm guessing Andrea Jenkins running for re-election and will continue to be president. And she will be with Goodman and Johnson leaving. She'll be the most experienced member of the city council.
And I think another thing about Palmisano, very sensitive to being anyone suggesting that she's not just a true blue progressive in a way that Lisa Goodman probably doesn't care. So for whatever that's worth.
Yeah, it's rough. All of these terms are relative terms. They have no absolute meaning. And so when we use those terms, they're in the context of Minneapolis politics.
Yeah, don't be listening to this podcast in Nebraska and taking us too seriously or some suburb. We're talking about Minneapolis politics here.
So yeah, if you're judging them on a national scale, yeah, probably all of the members of the city council are still quite liberal or progressive. You could maybe argue Rainville. But saying that isn't useful for describing Minneapolis politics is just saying they're all progressive. We need to compare them to other members of the Minneapolis City Council.
Yeah, Michael Rainville could easily run for Congress as a Republican. I could see that if he lived in a different place. He's Yeah, the whole Barb Johnson clan is disturbing to me, and it's to my endless embarrassment that we let Barb Johnson's cousin, an even worse version of Barb Johnson, Michael Rainville, onto the city council to embarrass us. Okay, I think we've come to the end. Josh, do we have any good ways to end this episode? Any kind of wrap up?
I think just to remind people to get involved, I think you put it very well earlier in that there's, you have a lot more influence in local politics than in state and national politics. If you spend some time volunteering or donating even a little bit of money to a local candidate, that goes a long way in a local race compared to the impact it would have in a state or national race. And the earlier you get involved, the more impact you can have. So I'd certainly start researching candidates, maybe considering being a candidate yourself or reaching out to other people who you think would be a good candidate.
There's still time. You can still do it.
And of course, everyone remember to caucus for the Minneapolis DFL precinct caucuses on March 14th, which is Pie Day. I think bringing pie is not required, but I'm sure probably advantageous to converting people to your side.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that call to action, Josh Martin. There's still time to become a candidate. Okay. Again, share this with your friends. Get them very excited. As I said before, I think our scintillating personalities are really going to connect with people who are uninitiated. This could work if you just share this episode. Get people listening. We are very convincing individuals here. Okay. This is the Wedge Live podcast. I'm your host, John Edwards. My guest has been the new Larry Jacobs, Josh Martin. Thank you all for listening.
This is a real thing. Real thing.
None of you have the balls to stop this. Stop this.
I've got plenty of time. I have nothing else going on today.
We're in the Wedge neighborhood right now.